But now you already know. Kamala Harris is doing an interview tonight with Fox News. Tonight being, of course, Wednesday, October the 16th. I hope to God she knows what she's doing. Now, so far, her interviews have been pretty good. She's answered all the questions, and she's made some very good points about what she plans to do and digging on what Donald Trump wants to do. And in fact, here's a small clip from Charlemagne the God calling Donald Trump, well, we all know who he is, weak.
And again, you know, here's Charlemagne, one of the things that I think is really ironic, but at play. Donald Trump, through his way of trying to name call and demean and divide, tries to project as though those things are a sign of strength, when in fact the man is really quite weak. He's weak. It's a sign of weakness that you want to please dictators and seek their flattery and favor. It's a sign of weakness that you would demean America's military and America's service members. It's a sign of weakness that you don't have the courage to stand up for the Constitution of the United States and the principles upon which it stands. This man is weak and he is unfit.
I'm smiling because I don't think anyone's ever in his entire life, especially in politics, has ever called Donald Trump weak. We've called him everything else in the book, but weak. And I think that description fits him very perfectly. Donald Trump is weak. He's shown himself to be weak all the time. But as for tonight's interview with Fox News, I really hope she knows what she's getting herself into. Because we all know that Fox News, networks like One American News and Newsmax and so many others are nothing more than political arms for the Republican Party, and especially for Donald Trump. And that's where I want to go with this video real quick. We know that the mainstream media, regardless of how many times they fact-check Donald Trump, especially in light of the debate Donald Trump and Kamala Harris had a couple of months ago, regardless of that, none of them to this day have not called Donald Trump what he is, a fascist. I know this is treading on familiar ground and you're saying, my God, why are you making another video of this? We heard this before, blah, 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 freaking blah. You're hearing this from me again because people need to know what kind of monster Donald Trump is. And this is the only way I can do that. Donald Trump is a fascist, and the media has not called him out on it, save one. A couple of nights ago, Jake Tapper of CNN decided to talk about Donald Trump's fascism, especially when it comes to those two clips I showed you of Donald Trump with Maria Bartiromo on Fox News, about how Donald Trump wants to be a fascist.
Trump is claiming that his political opponents are more dangerous than foreign adversaries of the United States.
It's the enemy from within, all the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country. That's a bigger enemy than China and Russia.
The quote, enemy from within, is a phrase that the former president repeated yesterday in an interview on Fox.
We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within. And the enemy from within, in my opinion, is more dangerous than China, Russia, and all these countries.
Trump went on to suggest how he might handle these so-called enemies from within on Election Day should he win in November.
We have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
So who exactly are these enemies from within that Mr. Trump says he would consider deploying the military or the National Guard against? Someone that, as Trump suggests, poses a greater threat to national security than Russia or China. Who are they?
The thing that's tougher to handle are these lunatics that we have inside, like Adam Shifty Schiff.
Okay, U.S. Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, a Democrat from California, right in the area I am right now, Los Angeles, who is now running for a seat in the U.S. Senate. He was the lead prosecutor in Trump's first impeachment trial. So, as a factual matter, stripping this of all adjectives and any bias, the Republican nominee is telling you that as commander-in-chief, he will contemplate using the United States military or National Guard to go after his political opponents, including Democrats, such as the likely next U.S. Senator from California, Adam Schiff. That's what he's saying. And he is referring to his political opponents here in the United States, Americans, as the enemy, as scum, as a bigger and more dangerous enemy than China or Russia. These are his words. This is what he is telling you that he will do if you elect him president.
About his targeting of the left, or the lunatic left, as he calls them. We got a lot of lunatics in the left, blah, 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 and all that. How he wants to use the U.S. military or the National Guard. I mean, this moron can't even get into his head that the National Guard is part of the military. Unless he's talking about active duty versus National Guardsmen. Maybe that's what he meant, but I doubt it. He doesn't know much. In either case, Jake Tapper took the first step of anyone out there in the media calling him a fascist. Even echoing Bob Woodward's book, War, in which he quotes General Mark Miley, who served as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs while Trump was in office, calling him a total fascist, knowing that he would risk his life calling him a total fascist. That quote is directly from the book War, Bob Woodward's book. And honestly, I can't deny any of this. Now, in my last video, I gave you the comparisons between Adolf Hitler and Donald Trump. I'm going to do that again, but I found this online and I found it to be very, 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 very interesting. What I'm about to read to you are the 14 defining characteristics of fascism, and they describe Donald Trump and his supporters to a T. If Jake Tapper or anyone else in the media wants to actually read these out loud, please do so, because I really don't know if people understand it. Hopefully you all do. Number 1, powerful and continuing nationalism. Fascist regimes make constant use of patriotic mottos, slogans, symbols, flags, and songs. Patriotic mottos. Make America great again. Keep America great. Check. Slogans. Again, check. Symbols. Like the merchandise Donald Trump keeps selling, like the sneakers and the mugshot t-shirt, the t-shirt with him and his fist in the air after a bullet passed his head, all the way to the Bible that Donald Trump endorses, that's made in China and that costs $49 US to buy and are made for $2, I think it was, in China. And of course, the flags. The flags I keep seeing in my neighborhood flying as high as the American flag with MAGA all over it. Trump 2024, Trump Vance 2024. So check on that. Number 2, disregard for human rights. Human rights can be ignored because of fear of enemies and the need for security. As a result, people tend to look the other way, approve of torture, approve of long incarcerations of prisoners, and approve of executions and assassinations. We do know all of this because of Donald Trump's first presidency, that he looks the other way when human rights are being abused. He didn't say 2 words. Now, here's the example. I'm trying not to make this a racial situation, but here's a perfect example of that. During Donald Trump's tenure as president, we didn't hear a single word about African Americans, especially unarmed African Americans, being killed en masse by police officers. In fact, Donald Trump encourages it and continues to encourage it, and was one of his campaign promises. If he's elected, he'll give police officers more immunity to commit crimes. Approve of torture. Again, police officers who have actually tortured African Americans to death. Approve of long incarcerations for prisoners. Yeah, I can pretty much say that he wants to do that. And approve of executions and assassinations. Well, the execution part, I wouldn't put it past him. The assassination part, well, actually, if you want to throw this all up, when Donald Trump said he wanted to kill and do something about left-leaning liberals, when he wanted to, when he says something like that, that fits into this definition of executions of assassinations. He wants to take out people who aren't sufficiently loyal to him. That's what he says. Number 3, identification of enemies as a unifying cause. People are railed into a unifying patriotic frenzy over the need to eliminate a perceived common enemy. Racial, ethnic, or religious minorities, liberals, communists, socialists, terrorists. Now, speaking from my personal experience, I've lost count of how many people who have threatened me because I'm black, because I'm not a Trump supporter, and I refuse to vote for him. Ethnic or religious minorities. Now, that perfectly excuses the way the radical Christian right has screamed and huffed and hollered about Muslims or anyone who doesn't worship the God of the white evangelical nationalists. Liberals. Oh, liberals. Remember, he wants you dead. Communists. I don't think anyone in this country is communist, but they label us all as communists because we don't vote for Trump. Socialists, again, whatever. And terrorists. Now, I got no problem with taking out terrorists. But unfortunately, they're going to label you and me as terrorists because we don't support Trump. Number 4, supremacy of the military. The military is giving a disproportionate amount of government funding. Soldiers and military services are glamorized. Now, the second part, I have to disagree. So, soldiers and military service are glamorized. They already are glamorized. There is not a single day that I don't need to see one U.S. Army or Navy or Marine Corps or Air Force or Space Force or Coast Guard or Reserve or National Guard commercial anywhere on television. That's one thing. But when you give absolute power to the military, that is incredibly dangerous. Because we've seen in nations where the military is all controlling, that never ends well. Number 5, widespread sexism. The government tends to be almost exclusively male dominant. Traditional gender roles are made more rigid Divorce, abortion, and homosexuality are suppressed. Now, a few days ago on Facebook, I debated this one guy, I forget his name. He says that women should not be allowed to vote, echoing the same hateful, bigoted ideas that Mark Robertson had, that women shouldn't be allowed to vote because that would make our country greater. I call bullshit on it, but the reason why he says that women shouldn't be allowed to vote is because they don't, how do you put it? They can't be drafted in the United States military. Why should they get the rights that men have if they're not drafted and risk their lives in the military, as men do? And I had to think about that. And frankly, he was full of shit, obviously. Women have served the United States military, even without being drafted in, with honor and distinction for decades. And it goes into this sexism part here, saying that it's widespread sexism and that the government tends to be almost exclusively male-dominated. That's what they want. I mean, the way I see it in this particular case, if you can't handle the fact that a woman has the right to vote or equal rights in this country, then that becomes fascism. Number 6, control mass media. The media is directly or indirectly controlled by the government. Censorship is very common. Now, I talked about this not too long ago, that J.D. Vance refuses to say that Donald Trump lost the election in 2020. And he wants to pivot all the way to this idea of censorship. Why did Biden and Harris censor anyone who talked about COVID-19 and the vaccines? That didn't happen. But then he goes off in another tangent about how the 2020 election was stolen from him because Facebook and Twitter and all that decided to be, decided not to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop. So you want to talk about censorship? Donald Trump, during his first 10 years as president, tried to censor reporters, even screaming that reporters were the enemy of the American people like Joseph Stalin did. Even thought about locking up reporters that didn't give good reports about him. Now, you tell me this. How are we supposed to believe that you're worried about censorship when Donald Trump is trying to censor everyone around him that doesn't give him a good puff piece whenever he fucks up? Number 7, obsessed with national security. Fear is used as a motivational tool by the government over the masses. Now, there's a difference between national security and control. National security means that you're willing to protect the people, even though you may disagree with them. But when it comes to control and fear, then you cross that line from protection to control. And control is never, ever a good thing. Because when you have Donald Trump, who actually, let me remind you of something. Just before his presidency ended, there was a protest outside the White House after the George Floyd tapes were exposed weeks after the unfortunate mess in Minnesota, the George Floyd riots. Donald Trump ordered the military to gas peaceful protesters who were not armed for a photo op. And he's also threatened to send the National Guard, and people in his administration have come out and said that Donald Trump wanted to kill peaceful protesters. Saying, of course, one time he said, can we just shoot them in the legs so they can't move? So the question becomes, does Donald Trump really believe in national security, or does he just want complete and total control? Number 8, religion and government are intertwined. Government uses the most common religion in the nation as a tool to manipulate public opinion. Religious messages and terminology are common for government leaders. This goes into the idea of separation of church and state. The thing that, I forgot what her name is already. The congresswoman in Colorado, Boebert. I haven't heard anything from her in a long time, so I can't remember what her first name is. But Congresswoman Boebert says that there is no such thing as separation of church and state. Yes, there is. But what these people, these evangelicals want is control over the government. That's not how it's supposed to be. The Constitution, the First Amendment especially, says so, that the government will not establish a, forgive me if I'm drawing a blank, forgive me, an establishment of religion or interfere with the free exercise thereof. So with this idea that Donald Trump wants on fascism, that should scare all of us who say there are religious people. Because the Christianity that I may practice, and I am a practiced Christian, I'm saved by the blood of Jesus Christ himself, my Savior. That religion that I practice may not be the religion that the government wants you to practice. That's dangerous, and people need to pay attention to that. Number 9, corporate power is protected. Mutually beneficial business-government relationship. Donald Trump goes off about this big partnership he has with Elon Musk. That's what it's talking about. Elon Musk, I honestly think, is just trying to get in the good graces of Donald Trump so he can make more money from him, more money in this country. Let me put it that way. Number 10, and this goes into Musk as well. Labor power is suppressed, Labor unions are seen as a huge threat to a fascist government. Labor unions are either severely suppressed or eliminated entirely. And that goes to Musk because I remember, I want to say it was sometime last month, that Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they were laughing about trying to end unions in this country. And now they're still facing a lawsuit from unions. And not once have I saw Elon Musk or Donald Trump or anyone else in the right wing give any kind of support to unions. They haven't been to a single rally for unions or anything else like that. So that actually fits. Number 11, disrespect for the intellectuals and the arts. Open hostility to higher education, professors, and other academics are censored, even arrested. Free expansions in the arts and writing is openly attacked. I remember completely that Donald Trump said, I love the poorly educated. Hold on, let me get my face on. I love the poorly educated. I love the poorly educated. For the last 10 years, I tell people I'm college educated. I have an associate's degree. I have friends who have bachelor's degrees. I have friends and my family who have master's degrees. Every single one of them have faced some kind of, I won't say prejudice or racism, but some kind of insults because they're highly educated. They went to college, they went to universities. Every single one of them. And this idea, and in the last 10 years, the one group of people who have disrespected them and me have been Donald Trump supporters. Ring any bells? And this idea of disrespect for intellectuals and the arts. We're seeing all these people, these Trump supporters screaming all over and over again how woke, Hollywood is become. How woke Disney has become. How woke movies have become. They're not woke, and I'm still wondering what the hell that means. And no one will give me a straight answer to it. I'm sorry, this video is running along, but I have a lot more to say. Number 12, obsessed with crime and punishment. Local police are given almost limitless power to enforce law. People are often willing to overlook police abuses in the name of patriotism. Often the national police force with virtually unlimited power. Didn't I just go through this not too long ago? Didn't I just talk about this? Actually, I did. Donald Trump is proposing to give full and total immunity to police officers who cross the line, all in the name of patriotism. Honest patriot is the next man, and I have none but the greatest respect for cops in this country, but I will call them out if they cross the line. To not do so would be unpatriotic. To not do so would be turning a blind eye to the abuses that people suffer. And me personally, I am not going to do that. And you're not going to allow, and I will not allow people to use patriotism as an excuse. Number 13, rampant cronyism and corruption. Friends and associates appoint each other to government positions. Officials use governmental power and authority to protect their friends from accountability. We saw that after 2020. We saw that during the entire Trump presidency. He appointed his family in the positions of power in the White House. He appointed his friends to positions in the White House and in government. And we're seeing accountability nearly wiped away. And of course, the judge in Florida. Yeah, I'm talking about you, bitch. We're seeing this bitch do everything she can to let Donald Trump off. To say that Donald Trump, he's no criminal, when he really is. And finally, number 14, fraudulent elections. Elections are often a complete sham. Elections may be manipulated to smear campaigns. Manipulation of the media to control elections, and occasionally assassination of the opposing candidate. Now we haven't reached this stage yet, but already in this election, Donald Trump has already made the case that he's going to declare victory, even if he loses to Kamala Harris. He loses to Kamala Harris. I won anyway. He tried that back in 2021. He tried that when Biden beat his ass. And when he found out that he got his ass kicked, he tried to create an insurrection on this country. Trying to scream, the election was fraudulent, I was fake, it was stolen from me. He's going to do the same damn thing in this election. So what does that tell you? It tells me that from the 14 characteristics of fascism, Donald Trump is a 100% fascist. And to that extent, anyone who supports Donald Trump is a 100% fascist. We see what kind of a monster Donald Trump is. And in 20 days from now, from the time I'm making this video, in 20 days, we have a chance to stop that insanity. Enough is enough. The weak man, as Kamala Harris said, needs to be put out the pasture. And we have exactly 20 days to do it. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.